My lifelong girlfriend betrayed me with her married boss, but when she came back crying to confess a year later, I recorded her admitting everything, and the lawsuit I filed destroyed her life completely. Now she pays the consequences every month. I'm 28 years old. I'm a software developer, and a year and a half ago, I literally lost everything I had because of my ex-girlfriend Victoria. And when I say everything, I mean everything. My job, my reputation, my freedom for 3 days, my dignity, basically my entire life went to hell because she decided to destroy me with lies to cover up her affair with her married boss. But wait, because this has an ending that even I didn't expect. So let me tell you this whole story from the beginning because it's crazy. I met Victoria when we were 6 years old. I mean, we were literally kids. My parents moved to this quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Hartford, Connecticut, and it turns out the house next door had a girl my age who had also just started first grade. Our moms became friends in that neighbor thing, having coffee and stuff, and they put us to play together. I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought girls were weird because I was 6 and didn't understand anything about life, but Victoria was different. She liked video games and wasn't grossed out by catching frogs in the creek behind our houses, so we became best friends basically right away. We grew up together doing everything. We went to the same school, rode bikes all over the neighborhood. Her parents took us to the movies on Saturdays. We celebrated our birthdays together because they were 2 weeks apart. Her dad, Kenneth, was ex-military and was a bit scary at first. Like that guy who washes his car on Sundays with a serious face and all the neighborhood kids respect him. But he was actually cool once he got to know you. Her mom, Helen, was an English teacher and always helped us with homework. I practically lived at her house or she lived at mine. Our families were super close. My parents loved them like family and vice versa. Things changed junior year of high school. We were like 16, and one day we were studying for a history exam in my room, and I don't know what happened, but suddenly I was kissing her and she was kissing me, and it was like, wow, okay, this is new. The next day was kind of awkward, but then we talked and basically decided to try being boyfriend and girlfriend because we already knew each other better than anyone and it made sense, right? Our families were happy. Our friends said it was obvious we were going to end up together. Everyone thought we were the perfect couple. We went to different universities. She stayed in Connecticut to study marketing at UConn, and I went to Massachusetts for computer science. But we maintained the long-distance relationship, and it worked well, actually. We visited each other every 2 or 3 weeks, spent summers together, talked every day. We never had that typical college couple drama of cheating or whatever. We were solid. When we graduated, I got a job offer at a software company in Hartford, and Victoria already had a position at a marketing agency, so we said, perfect. Let's move in together. We moved into a small, but nice apartment near downtown. We had 2 bedrooms because we converted one into an office. We adopted a one-eyed orange tabby cat named Mr. Whiskers. We found him at a shelter, and Victoria fell in love with him immediately, and honestly, everything was great. We had been dating for 5 years at that point, but had known each other for 22 years. I mean, this person was literally part of my life since I could remember. I never thought about getting married young, but I did think that eventually Victoria and I were going to get married. It was like a given. Everyone assumed it even. The first months living together were good. We worked, went out with friends on weekends, did normal couple stuff. But like a year into living together, Victoria got a new job at a bigger company. They paid better and had better growth opportunities, so obviously I told her to take it. Her new boss was named Matthew. He was like 43 years old. She was 27 at the time, was married and had 2 kids. Victoria mentioned him sometimes, said he was a good boss, that he taught her a lot, normal work stuff. But then she started working more hours, came home late, often. And looking back, I should have seen it coming, but I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? We had been together for years, we'd known each other since we were kids. There was never a reason to doubt. Sometimes she'd get home like at 10 at night saying she'd met with clients or they had a deadline. And I was like, okay, it's work, I get it. She started going out more often with coworkers on Fridays after the office, and when I asked her how it went, it was always vague answers like, it was fine, the usual. Everything exploded one Friday night about a year and a half ago. Victoria had said she was going out with her team after work and that she'd be home late. I stayed home doing nothing, watching Netflix with Mr. Whiskers, the usual. Around 11 at night, I realized she had left her iPad in the living room, and then she got a message that appeared on the lock screen. I'm not one of those people who check their partner's phones. I had never done it, but the message was right there, and I saw it unintentionally. It was from Matthew, her boss, and it said something like, "I already miss your body. When can we see each other again?" And I just stood there staring at the iPad like an idiot thinking, this can't be real. It has to be a mistake. Maybe it's another Matthew. But I unlocked the iPad. E knew her password because we'd never had secrets, and started reading the messages, and I literally felt like I was going to throw up. There were months of conversations. Months. Talking about meeting at hotels, explicit sexual messages, photos I'm not going to describe here, plans for when his wife was away, everything. The thing had been going on for at least 6 months, according to what I could see. I stayed up all night reading everything. And it wasn't just sex. They were making plans like, when I can, get divorced, we're going to be together. I love you. You're the love of my life. All that kind of stuff. He was telling her he was going to leave his wife for her, that he just needed time to work things out with his kids first. And Victoria was responding that she was going to leave me soon, but that it was complicated because we'd been together so long and our families were involved. I read messages where she said I was boring, that the relationship had no spark anymore, that Matthew made her feel alive in a way I never had. Every message was like a stab. Victoria got home around 2 in the morning, kind of drunk, laughing and happy, and saw me sitting on the couch with the iPad in my hand. Her face changed immediately, like she knew instantly I had seen everything. She tried to come closer to me, but I told her not to come near me, and I asked her how long she'd been sleeping with her boss. First she tried to deny it, then tried to minimize it, like, it only happened a few times, it doesn't mean anything. But I showed her the messages, and she couldn't lie anymore. She started crying and saying she was sorry, that it had been a mistake, that she loved me, that Matthew had manipulated her, all the classic excuses. I was so angry but also so devastated that I couldn't even yell. I just told her to pack her things and leave my apartment right now. She started begging, saying we could go to couples therapy, that she could change, but I was done, completely done with her. I gave her 30 minutes to pack the essentials and leave, and that she could come back later for the rest with someone present. She left that night crying with a suitcase and some boxes. I think she went to her parents' house, which was like 20 minutes away. I didn't sleep at all. I just sat there in shock, processing that the person I trusted most in the world, someone I'd known since we were 6, had been cheating on me for months with her married boss. The next day I texted her saying she could come on the weekend to get her stuff, but that I wasn't going to be there, that my sister Claire would be there to supervise. I thought that was the worst that could happen. I thought the hardest part was going to be getting over the breakup and moving on with my life. I had no idea what was coming. About 4 days after Victoria left, 2 police officers knocked on my office door in the middle of the workday. All my coworkers turned to look when they said my full name and asked me to come with them. They handcuffed me right there, in front of everyone, and told me I was under arrest for domestic violence, abuse, and theft. I was in total shock, like I literally didn't understand what was happening. I kept saying there has to be a mistake. I didn't do anything. They put me in the patrol car and took me to the station, and there they explained that Victoria had filed a complaint saying I had hit her multiple times during our relationship, that I threatened her constantly, that I controlled her, and that when we separated I had stolen her mother's jewelry worth like $50,000 out of revenge. She also said I had broken her phone and destroyed her clothes, and that she feared for her life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I literally kept telling the detective, "This is a lie. I never did anything to her. You can ask anyone." But he just said they had to investigate, and that in the meantime, I was going to be detained. They took my fingerprints, took my pictures, took everything I had on me, and put me in a cell. I spent 3 nights in jail, 3 nights, sleeping on a metal bench with a horrible blanket that smelled weird, eating the worst food of my life, surrounded by people who had actually committed real crimes. My sister Claire, who's a medical resident and basically the most responsible person I know, paid my bail as soon as she could gather the money. When I got out, I went straight to my apartment, but my boss had already called me like 20 times and left me messages saying I was suspended without pay while the situation was resolved, and that they were probably going to have to let me go because the negative publicity was affecting the company. I Googled my name, and there were already articles in local newspapers about my arrest, with my photo and everything, saying I was accused of domestic violence and theft. I lost my job 2 weeks later officially. They told me it was for unauthorized absence and because the legal situation represented a reputational risk for the company. All my savings went to paying lawyers, bail, and legal expenses. I had to move back in with my parents because I couldn't afford the apartment alone anymore, and it was humiliating. I was 27 years old and back in my teenage bedroom, unemployed, with criminal charges on me, and everyone in my town knew what I was accused of. The worst part was the family's reaction. Victoria's family obviously believed everything. Her dad Kenneth sent me threatening messages, saying that if I came near his daughter again, I was going to regret it. Her mom, Helen, wrote a letter to the editor of the local newspaper talking about domestic violence and mentioning my case indirectly. My own parents at first supported me, but I could see the doubt in their eyes, like my mom asked me once if maybe I had done something that Victoria could have misinterpreted, and that destroyed me because not even my own family fully believed me. My friends didn't know what to think. Some stopped talking to me, others kept their distance. I lost freelance contracts because when they Googled me, the articles about my arrest came up. I couldn't get a job anywhere. All companies did background checks and automatically rejected my application. I was falling into horrible depression. There were days I didn't even leave my room. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about how my life had gone from being perfectly fine to being completely destroyed in a matter of weeks. Victoria's family not only pressed criminal charges, they also sued me civilly for the allegedly stolen jewelry, plus emotional damages, plus I don't know what other things. They were asking for like $100,000 total. My lawyer, whose name was Laura and was cool but realistic, told me the situation looked bad because it was basically my word against Victoria's, and that even though I was innocent, domestic violence cases are complicated and trials can go either way. My sister Claire was the only person who believed me, without doubt from the beginning. She knew Victoria almost as well as I did. They had also grown up together practically, and she told me she knew I was incapable of hurting anyone. One night, like 6 months into this whole mess, Claire came to my room with a laptop and coffee and told me, "Okay, the self-pity is over. We're going to fix your life. This is Operation Phoenix, and we're starting now." She made me make a list of everything I needed to do: get therapy for depression, start looking for small freelance work, even if it was badly paid to have income, exercise even if I didn't feel like it, socialize even if it was just going for a walk in the park. She connected me with a therapist she knew from the hospital, and honestly, those sessions helped me not completely lose my mind. Little by little, I started doing small programming jobs online. Nothing big, but some money was coming in. And with that, I paid my legal expenses that kept accumulating. About a year into all this, I got a real job at a company in Hartford that was willing to give me a chance after I explained my whole situation to them. It wasn't the same level as my previous job, but it was something. And my new boss was understanding and told me he believed in second chances. I started rebuilding my life slowly. I moved to a small apartment with a roommate, reconnected with some friends, adopted a dog from a shelter that was named like Max or something. Basically, I was trying to move forward even though the criminal charges and civil lawsuit were still pending, and my reputation was still trash. And then, about 6 months ago, Victoria showed up at my new apartment door. I almost fell over in shock when I opened it and saw her standing there, with red and swollen eyes from crying so much, makeup running, trembling. My first instinct was to slam the door in her face, but she put her foot in the doorway and begged me to listen to her. Please, just 5 minutes. I don't know why, maybe because I was stupid or curious, but I let her in. She sat on my couch and started crying uncontrollably, saying her life was a mess, that Matthew had left her, that everything had gone wrong, that she had made the worst mistake of her life. I was standing there like, seriously? You come here to cry to me because your affair didn't work out? But then she started confessing everything, and I mean everything. She told me that when I kicked her out of the apartment, Matthew promised her he was going to leave his wife, and they were going to go away together, but that he needed time. Months passed, and he kept postponing things, and Victoria started to get desperate because she realized he was never going to leave his family. When she finally confronted him, He told her it had all been just fun, that she knew he was married from the beginning, and to stop being dramatic. He literally dumped her from one day to the next, and not only that, but he took away all her good projects at work and basically sidelined her professionally. But here comes the strongest part. She confessed to me that all the accusations against me had been lies, completely made up. She said that when I kicked her out, she panicked because Matthew had told her that if I caused problems at work, he was going to fire her, and that she needed to make sure I looked like the bad guy, and she looked like the victim. So she invented the whole story about abuse and violence, and the jewelry theft thing was because she herself had stolen them to sell them and give them to Matthew, who apparently had serious financial problems she didn't know about. She started crying, saying she was sorry, that she had ruined my life, that she didn't know how to live with the guilt, that she thought about confessing everything every day but was afraid of going to jail. I was sitting there listening to her and felt a mixture of absolute fury and some satisfaction because I finally knew I had been right all along. But I was also thinking very clearly, I need to record this. I need evidence of this confession. I told her to wait a moment and went to the bathroom, took out my phone and turned on the voice recorder, came back and put the phone on the table between us, like casually as if I was just leaving it there. And then I said, "Okay, tell me everything again, from the beginning. I want to understand exactly what happened." And she, still crying, told me everything again, every detail, admitted that I never hit her, that I never threatened her, that she stole the jewelry and blamed me, that she invented the threatening messages I supposedly sent her. Everything, absolutely everything was recorded on my phone. When she finished talking, I grabbed my phone and showed her I had been recording. She went pale, started yelling about how could I do that she had come in good faith to apologize. I told her good faith nothing, that she had completely destroyed my life, that I lost my job, my reputation, a year and a half of my life, thousands of dollars in lawyers, all because of her lies, and that if she thought I was going to let this go, she was very wrong. I told her to leave my apartment immediately or I'd call the police, and she ran out, still crying. The next day, I went to Laura, my lawyer, and showed her the complete recording. Her face was total shock. She told me this was exactly what we needed, that with this evidence, all the charges against me were, I'm going to fall. And also I could countersue for defamation and damages. We submitted the recording as evidence in court, and things moved fast after that. The criminal charges against me were dropped in less than 2 weeks. The prosecutor said that with the recorded confession, it was obvious the accusations were false. Victoria's family immediately withdrew the civil lawsuit when they heard the recording. Victoria's dad called me crying, asking for forgiveness, saying he didn't know his daughter had lied, that if he had known the truth, he never would have accused me. It was kind of weird, but I guess I understand. His daughter had lied to him too. I filed a countersuit for defamation, emotional distress, loss of income, all the damages her lies caused me. My lawyer, Laura, was incredible. She put together a solid case showing all the newspaper articles, the conversations where I lost jobs, testimonies from people who knew me. Victoria had no way to defend herself. There was literally a recording of her confessing everything. The trial was weird because Victoria looked terrible, like she had aged 10 years in one. And honestly, part of me felt some pity, but the other part remembered the 3 nights I spent in jail. The months living in my parents' room without a job, the shame, the depression, everything. The judge ruled in my favor and awarded me considerable financial compensation. I'm not going to say the exact amount, but it was enough to cover all my losses and more. But wait, because here the thing gets even better. It turns out that when they started investigating deeper because of the legal case, they discovered that Matthew, Victoria's boss, had been stealing money from the company where they worked, like defrauding expense reports and stuff like that. The company pressed charges against him. And Victoria was involved because she had signed some of those false reports, although she says she didn't know they were fraudulent. He's facing fraud charges now. And the last I heard is that his wife did divorce him and took everything in the divorce. Victoria lost her job, obviously, and had to plead guilty to obstruction of justice and perjury for the false accusations against me. She got 2 years probation and community service, plus she has to pay me the compensation from the trial in monthly installments. Her reputation is destroyed just like mine was, but I guess it's fair. When the whole truth came out, the same local newspaper that had published my arrest did a follow-up story about how I had been a victim of false accusations and how my name had been cleared. A lot of people who had stopped talking to me contacted me to apologize, including some relatives. My current company was amazing. My boss told me he was proud of how I had handled everything, and they gave me a raise. I applied again to better jobs, and now I have options I didn't have before because my record is clean. About 3 months ago, Kenneth, Victoria's dad, contacted me, asked me to meet, to talk. We went to a coffee shop and he basically spent an hour apologizing, saying he had been an idiot for threatening me, that he should have investigated more before believing everything his daughter said, that he understood if I never forgave him, but that he needed me to know he was sorry. It was kind of surreal, because this man who scared me as a kid was there crying, asking me for forgiveness. I told him I understood, that he did what any father would do in defending his daughter, and that I didn't hold a grudge against him or Helen, that they were also victims of Victoria's lies. My life now is pretty good, actually. I have a job I like, a decent apartment, good friends. My family fully supports me again. I met someone a few months ago. Her name is Jessica. She's a graphic designer and we met at a networking event. Things are going slow because obviously I have trust issues after everything I went through. But she's patient and understands why I'm cautious. Mr. Whiskers, the cat I adopted with Victoria, stayed with me finally and is living his best life being the king of my apartment. Sometimes I think about Victoria and wonder how she ended up like this, how someone I knew since we were 6, my best friend, my first love, ended up being capable of destroying my life so completely for an affair with her boss. I guess people change, or maybe I never really knew her. I don't feel hate toward her now, more like some pity, because she destroyed her own life too. In the process, she lost her family, her friends, her career, her reputation, everything for 6 months of an affair with a guy who didn't even really want her. Last week, my sister Claire invited me to dinner and told me she was proud of me, that I had gone through something horrible and had come out the other side being a better person. She's right, I guess. All this made me stronger, more aware of who I am and what I deserve, more grateful for the people who really support me. I learned that the truth eventually comes to light, that justice exists even if sometimes it takes time, and that even when your life is completely destroyed, you can rebuild it piece by piece if you don't give up. And Victoria? The last time I heard anything about her, she was working in retail, living with her parents again, paying me the compensation from the trial every month. Part of me feels some satisfaction knowing she's facing the consequences of her actions, but another part just feels sadness for everything that could have been and never will be. 22 years of friendship and 5 years of a relationship, all destroyed by her decisions. I haven't seen her in person since that day she came to my apartment to confess everything, and honestly, I hope to never see her again. That chapter of my life is closed, and although the scars are still there, I'm building something new, something better, and this time with people who are really worth it.